And now, weighing in out of the blue corner, Josh the Punk Thompson. 100% agree. And on the other mic, he weighs in from the red corner, Big John McCarthy.
And it's time to go live now. It is not our normal time as far as the time of day, but you know what? It's time to get busy with the Weighing In podcast. We're ready to go over all kinds of things that are happening in the world of MMA. Even though there's no fights, it's okay because there's all kinds of controversy going on. Things in boxing, things in MMA, and we're going to talk about it because my man is now back on the West Coast, kind of where he belongs. No, not for long.
I left sunny weather. It was a little bit colder, but I was enjoying some sunny weather. But now it's raining here, overcast, foggy, all of this stuff. Everyone keeps telling me how great California weather is. Yeah, it's always like in the 60s and 70s, but it's raining and pouring right now. For the next 2 weeks, it seems like it's going to be raining the whole time I'm here.
Dreary.
But you're right. There are no fights going on this weekend, or this week anyways, or at least until next year. That all being said, but guess what? There's always a fight between you and I because I'm laying the smackdown on your candy ass for Christmas.
Well, you know, it's
a little
kind
cheesy,
of
I get it.
It's kind of a striped peppermint, but yeah.
All right, hey guys, we're going to go ahead and talk about some stuff. Before we do that, though, I want to remind you guys this episode is brought to you by BetUS. YouTube 150 is the promo code. 125% bonus on your next two deposits after your initial deposit, where you get 150% bonus. Thus, the reason YouTube 150 is the promo code.
Did you say thus?
Yeah, I said thus.
Thus?
Did it work?
It did work.
It did work.
I got to give it to you.
And OnlyFans, subscribe to us over there. It is free. There's plenty of other athletes for you guys to follow. I know some of you guys, we go through this whole
Why would
process.
you want to?
Why would you follow the athletes?
Instead of us.
No, you follow us first, and then you just branch off into the other athletes. That's why. You know, I'm glad that John pointed that out. Why would you not want to follow us? We're the very first podcast that they've ever worked with,
and we're
and
fun.
done business with, and we are fun. We are. It is the holiday season. We are laying it out here for you guys the day before Christmas Eve. Get our quality time in with you guys, making sure you guys get your show for the week and 2 weeks now, whatever it is. We're gonna do it again. Yeah,
you know why?
We're committed. Because we're committed.
Dedication. That's right. Dedication, yep. Josh.
Yeah.
Life is about dedication. If you're dedicated and you work, you'll get to where you want to be.
I've always been dedicated. Yeah. I dedicated to my hairline, dedicated to my looks, dedicated to my muscles,
dedicated to my jawline.
I'd show you my ass. That's more genetics. I mean, I'm just blessed.
Is that what it is?
I'm just blessed.
Yeah. Trust me. No.
I just got to train, John. How would you? That's not a fair assessment.
It was cold.
It was cold. Yeah, it was cold. Yeah, I just got done training. All right, guys. Hey, hopefully you guys enjoy this show. And let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's go. Tommy Fury goes off on Darren Till, blames him for the fight cancellation. He's an idiot, is what he said. Tommy Fury about Darren Till.
I think Tommy should look in the mirror. Look, okay, this is a boxing match and it's fine. But he's sitting there, he's saying that, he's worried about Darren Till fouling. Okay, really? Like any opponent that you're going to go up against can't foul, okay, or cannot claim that, oh, I'm going to do this. He said Darren Till stated that he was going to take him down. Darren Till hasn't taken anyone down in MMA ever, okay? He did say, he goes, I might do a high kick during the fight. Okay. And if he does, guess what's going to happen, Josh? He's going to lose. The referee's going to disqualify him. It just happened recently in a fight where we had an MMA guy against a boxer. He's kind of getting a little touched, and he just says, fuck it. Boom, he throws it up there, and he lost. What happened? And this is what people don't understand, especially if I can't say where that was going to take place, but if it happens where you have a commission that's in charge of it, not only do you lose, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
Your money gets held, and they'll decide how much they're going to give you. So you just not only did you lose, now you're losing all kinds of money, and you put yourself in a place where people aren't going to fight you again. So Darren Till is talking. Darren Till is just making chatter to bring up interest in the fight and to put Tommy in a position where he's got to, say something back. Tommy Fury ends up just taking the fucking entire bait, hook, everything, and pulls himself out of the fight, he's not, I'm just going to say it right now. You don't want to fight.
Yeah, there was a in the contract, from what I understand, because I was there during fight week for the Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor fight. There was a lot of talk about the contract and how the contract said there should be no knees, no kicks, no elbows, no takedowns, no submissions. It was in the contract, and not only would you lose,
boxing.
but that's what this fight was going to be.
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
so that's what my point is. I was getting to that point of, look, it's in the contract saying you can't do any of those things. But in the Floyd and Conor fight, from my understanding, it was like he lost like 3/4 of his purse.
Yes, he would lose a lot of his purse.
Yeah, he would have lost a big portion of his purse. It's just not worth it. Just take your lickings like everyone else if you're losing.
Oh.
It is what it is. But look, you're doing the fight because Tommy Fury's got a win over Jake Paul. If you're able to get the win over Tommy Fury, then you can actually start calling for that fight against Jake Paul and looking to cash out. I think the fight between Darren Till and Tommy Fury, it would be a good fight. I think Tommy Fury probably gets the nod. He's the more true boxer.
True.
Physically, I think he's probably the bigger fighter. Not by much though.
Yeah,
but he's the more fluid boxer on the feet. So it would make for a good fight. I think it'd make for a very fun fight. I hope they can work this all out. But if anything, John, even if it does come to fruition later on, this is a good little segue into promoting your fight. Look, I canceled the fight. He said, okay, look, we're going to put the back to, we're talking about it right now. And if they could put it on, maybe Tommy didn't want to fight during Christmas time. Maybe they didn't want to fight during New Year's. Maybe he didn't want to train during this time. So what did he do? He probably said, you know what? I'm going to just cancel the fight now. I'll renegotiate back at the end of January, and get myself back into shape, and we'll fight sometime in March, April, May, June, wherever it is. Somewhere around there. I can see that also being potential.
This would be the same, though, as, when you were fighting and someone that you were going to fight, while you were fighting in the UFC, Nate Diaz says, I don't care what happens. When I take Josh down, I'm going to knee him to the head on the ground. It doesn't matter. Would you have gone, I'm out of this fight, I'm not doing that? No. You go, well, if he breaks the rules, and then it's up on the referee to do what he's supposed to do. That's it.
Yeah, I think I would have taken a different approach. I'm like, yeah, you fucking go right ahead and try.
I'll knee you right fucking back.
See what happens. See what happens.
That's my point. It's like, no, this is not the way you handle it. But if if it is the way that you're talking about, look, I'm just trying to build the fight, and I'm trying to extend where it's going to be at because I'm not happy with either my training or the timing of it. Okay.
Yeah.
But
it just sounds, I mean, look, it's, I guess when you're a boxer trying to learn how to deal with MMA guys, I don't know. Look, if a boxer says, I'm going to knock you out, he plans on using his hands. He's not trying to kick you. He's not trying to wrestle you. He's trying to knock you out on the feet.
Yeah.
These boxers, I think they realize that, look, if he does anything else, I'm fucked. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no clue what I'm doing.
Look, hold on. How many times, and this is where, a lot of people don't get to see these fights, but these fights have taken place for a long time with boxers. Usually they are over the hill as far as their boxing career, but taking on a kickboxer or something like that. I don't know if you remember back long ago, Rick Rufus was an amazing kickboxer, American kickboxer. And he decided to take on this guy that was a Thai boxer, and leg kicks were allowed. And in the beginning, Rick Rufus is standing there throwing his hands and throwing high kicks, and he's hitting this guy, and he's doing well. And this guy just keeps on blasting his leg. And all of a sudden, you see Rick Rufus not being able to stand. And all of a sudden, Rick Rufus is in trouble with the fight. And all of a sudden, Rick Rufus is on the ground. He can't get up. The fight's over. And Duke, who is in his corner, his brother, basically says, yeah, that's dirty fighting. Okay. He did. He said, he goes, that, no one wants to see that. That's dirty fighting. Now, obviously, it's because Duke was not comfortable at that time with leg kicks, but he is now. And it's like, is that dirty fight? No. Look, fighting is fighting. And depending upon the rules, everything, can be used and stuff. But there have been too many boxers that have gone in against guys that are kickboxers and just gotten fucked up, annihilated by not getting out punched to the head, getting hit to a place, their legs that they're not comfortable with, they're not used to it, and they don't know how to handle it. So they're just getting killed. Okay, that's what happens when you become a boxer and you decide to fight someone that has more skill sets than you. Right now, Tommy Fury against Darren Till. That's a pure boxing match. He doesn't have to worry about any of those things. The rules make it to where Darren Till, if he does it, he's going to end up losing the fight and losing money.
Yeah, was that fight with Rufus? Was that with Ernesto Hus?
No, it wasn't Ernesto Hus. I can't remember who it was. I've watched it. And
There was another one where he was at the Bellagio where Rick also had fought, I believe, Remy Bonjowski. I believe he fought him too, and he suffered by the leg kicks as well.
I'll tell you,
I believe it was Remy Bonjowski. I was there at that event.
Is it not a huge difference maker when it comes to fighting? Yes.
Yeah. Especially when you have someone like, whether it was Duke, whether it was Rick, their movement, their lateral movement, the way they threw their side kicks, the way that they were able to bounce around, avoid punches. I mean, they were a fucking pain in the ass to deal with.
Yeah.
And when you slowed them down and slowed their movement down, they became,
stationary and a target.
Stationary, a lot easier to hit. To hit.
That's it.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on.
All right, let's talk about something else that we're gonna go with in this day of everything. Robert Whittaker has come out saying that he has thought about the potential of moving to light heavyweight. Now, you got to think that Robert Whittaker at one time was a welterweight, then went to middleweight, has had an incredible career at middleweight. What do you think about him moving to light heavyweight? Because we were just talking about Kai Bahalo doing it. And you said, no, that's a bad idea.
Mm-hmm. Kai Bahalo is also younger, has a big career in front of him. Robert Whittaker is older, and it sounds like also too, as you get older, you tend not to want to cut the weight. You don't want to spend your time in the sauna. You want to be able to train at the weight that you walk around in. You want to be able to fight at the weight you kind of walk around in. And Robert, I read the quote on him. He said, look, I'm a big guy. I don't think people realize that I'm a big guy. You're not really that big. Like height wise, he's not like
not frame wise,
6'4", 6'5".
Not frame wise,
but
the amount of muscle he carries, he is thick.
He is.
He's got big legs.
I mean, let's not forget he fought at 170.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Fought at 170, fought at 185. Look, if you want to go ahead and jump on up to 205, I think right now is a good time to go because 205 is a pretty weak weight class. And I've always felt 85 and 205 was the pillar of the organization of MMA. You had Tito Ortiz, you had Ken Shamrock, you had Chuck Liddell, you had Rampage. I mean, these guys, there's Shogun. I mean, you got John Jones. I mean, think about all the biggest names in the sport. I think 5 or 6 of them come from that weight class.
Yeah.
And so, I look at him and I think to myself, if you want to do it, majority of them are stand-up guys. Majority of that weight class is stand-up guys. So, I mean, like, he's not going to be worried about guys really trying to take him down and dominate him from the top. Maybe he could potentially get knocked out on the feet, but he's a stand-up guy himself. He's got good wrestling. He can also try to take some of those guys down. They're just physically bigger than him. They're going to be physically stronger than him. But it makes for fun. At this age, John, make your choices. What do you want to do? That's where I'm like at his age, 34. I know he's probably, I would probably wait another year or two and maybe try to get another run in at middleweight. But I think at 34 years old, like, it's up to you. If you don't want to cut the weight anymore, you want to just lift, get the muscle on, you want to do that type of stuff, right? Then go right ahead, do it. But once you go up, I think you should stay. I don't think you should pop back down.
Well, you got to figure that if he goes up, there's places for him. Alonzo Minifield, I think, is at number somewhere around 14 or 15 in the UFC's rankings. And he matches up physically with someone like Alonzo Minifield. I think Anthony Smith is someone who's just a little bit above, but he's 6'4". But Anthony used to fight at 185, if you recall. That was where he was at for a lot of his career. So there's places for Robert to be in there. I don't know when you get to the very top. Some of these guys, are big.
I would like to see him and Ozdemir.
Ozdemir, very similar as far as big legs, strong. The stand-up would be good. Bobby Knuckles could do well on the feet, but he's going to have to deal with just a little bit more power. Because if you think about the people that he's fighting, in the middleweights, not quite as much power on those single shots. So there's always a give and take. And wherever he wants to fight, I don't care. I will watch Robert Whittaker in any weight class.
Bobby Knuckles is the man. Love it. He's humble. He seems like very, very
and
comfortable.
He's gonna have better teeth on the bottom too now.
Yeah. Hopefully they got that all fixed. Overall though, I mean, look, if you're gonna make the jump up, I would like to probably have him wait another year because I think he's got another run in him at 185 at 34 years old. But you gotta make sure that you're fighting as actively as possible. You got to be trying to get 2-3 fights in a year easily in the next year and a half. And then after that, if you want to go to 205, see where the dust settles. But I guess that's kind of a good segue into our next one. You said you didn't think this fight was going to happen, but you're saying Alex Pereira. You were thinking that Alex Pereira was going to end up fighting. Not you were thinking, but people were saying that right now there's talks of Chimaev and Pereira potentially fighting at 205. And Alex came out and said, "Hey, I am scheduled to fight. There is a fight that they're putting in front of me. I'm very happy, but guess what? It's not Ankalaev. It's more of like a jab at Ankalaev. But I mean, outside of that, I can't think of somebody that would bring the excitement." Like a Chimaev that would get Alex excited for that same fight.
That's a big fight.
Let's
be honest. And you look at it and you go, it's one that people would absolutely get wrapped around. And this is why they can look at the Ankalaev fight and say, yes, Ankalaev has earned his spot in the rankings. But if you take a look at his performances, for the most part, they've been boring. Most of his fights have not been exciting. They've been drawn out. He has, slowly and systematically taken over in the fight, won the fights, but none of them have been, wow, that was a great performance. Wow, that was exciting. Where Chimaev has had nothing but, for the most part, exciting fights, great performances in a lot of them. And so when you're looking at Poatan against somebody, who would you rather see him fight, Chimaev or Ankalaev? I'd rather see him fight Chimaev.
No, absolutely.
More exciting fight overall.
Look, I'm a fan of Ankalaev, but I think he hasn't done anything. He's done everything that he's supposed to do to get to the title shot.
I agree.
It reminds me of the John Fitz situation.
It's
They're
totally.
going to hold it from him, take it from him as long as they can until you do something that really makes me want to put you in that position.
Yeah.
And sadly, like Chimaev is the guy that's got all the talk and all the publicity and the aura about him. My only knock on him, Chimaev going up to 205 to take that fight, is that if you lose, I don't want to hear excuses. You understand what I'm saying? Like I was fighting at 205, and I feel like I don't know if the UFC will do whatever. I guess I shouldn't say I don't know if the UFC would do that because he is undefeated, right? Chimaev's still undefeated, correct?
Yeah.
20-0? I believe he's 20-0.
No, he's not 20-0. He's somewhere around, let's say 17-0, 18-0.
17?
Yeah.
Chimaev? Where is he? Oh, 14. Jeez, man, I was way off. Josh Thompson.
Okay.
Josh Thompson was way off. Jeez. But I look, I agree with you, John, 100%. I would much rather see that fight. His tenacity. That'll also, too, answer some questions. Can Pereira stay off of his back?
Yeah. That's.
I think he had a better chance staying off his back with Ankalaev.
So do I, because Ankalaev doesn't wrestle. Where Chimaev, he's going to come out and wrestle.
He's going to wrestle.
He's going to shoot that damn double leg from across the cage. Yeah. Can you stop it? Well, that's kind of what is the interesting part. We know exactly where Poatan is strong. We know exactly what he can do. And can he knock Chimaev out? Yeah, absolutely. He can knock Chimaev out. Everyone can get knocked out. But can Alex stop the takedown? And if he does if he can't stop the takedown, does he stop the submission? Because Chimaev is good at going after chokes. He's good at going and doing damage. But if he does survive that and he gets back to his feet for another round, where are we at? That's what makes the fight exciting. That's what makes it interesting.
You think this fight will happen?
I actually do. I think
you just told me earlier you didn't think. I didn't say that. You said I don't think it's going to happen. John, is it going to happen or not?
I think it is. I do.
Okay.
I really do think it is. Because you look at it and you go, the UFC is trying to put together fights that are exciting fights and fights that people look at and go, man, Poatan can lose. Chimaev is one of those guys, and he's big enough. His frame is big enough. He can absolutely go up.
This is what I think, John. I think that Poatan. I think that Alex has been like, you know what? I'm 38 years old. Like, I want the fights that are going to bring the most excitement for the fans. That are going to be like, yeah, I want to click on that. And on top of that, it's going to bring me the most money pay-per-view wise. Yeah. And the UFC is like, hey, we know a guy. And that's really what it comes down to.
That really
we know a guy. We know Chimaev is there. The John Jones fight may come to fruition if he walks through Chimaev and, Tom Aspinall and John Jones, the winner of that. I mean, there's a fight for Alex there. I could see Alex being like, look, I wiped out 185. Let me wipe out 205. I'll see you at the heavyweight division of the winner of John Jones and Tom Aspinall. He's got to get through Chimaev. And it actually is kind of teeing the UFC up to go like, hey, we're putting Chimaev in front of him because we know he's going to wrestle, but he's also not as big as Alex. And so there's a good chance that Alex now can beat him in the wrestling department. It kind of gives me flashbacks a little bit of the Conor McGregor-Chad Mendes fight. Let me give you Chad Mendes on a week, 10 days notice or week's notice. And he's a wrestler, sure, but we know he doesn't have a gas tank because it's only been 5 days or 8 days or 10 days, whatever it was. Sure, he can wrestle maybe in the first round. He did a lot of damage in that first round. Chimaev taking that fight, I'm sure he'll have a full camp, but the size advantage will go to Poatan. Poatan's, I think, has got the power advantage. The speed advantage is going to go to Chimaev. The wrestling's going to go to Chimaev. Submission's going to go to Chimaev. It makes for a fun fight. There's a lot of what ifs. If I'm a betting guy, I'm like, geez, man, I don't know where to go in this.
No, that's it. You're taking a chance either way.
Yeah, if I'm using my promo code, YouTube 150 at BetUS, I mean, I'm going to make sure I cash out on my 150% bonus that I get on that first deposit, or my 125% bonus on my next 2 deposits. I may go all in. Man. All in. On one of them as the fight gets closer. Yeah. Before we move on, though, John, we're going to get into these super chats. We got one. Numa 720. A lot of kickboxers have come into MMA. Some have done well, and others have not. One who I think would have done well is De Ogita. Thoughts?
I mean, could he? Go ahead.
No, my thoughts are this: is I think they all like Crow Cop. I think in the beginning they're going to have some problems, but as they get more developed in takedown defense and understanding how to create the space from the ground and learning the submission defense, of understanding that I can't just lay on top of you and try and strike. I've got to frame you away, keep my knee in the middle so I don't get sucked into full guard, or you can just hold me there. Then I'm just always trying to make space, circling, keeping my back off the fence, never settling when, the guy grabs me. Like, I'm okay here. Once they can grasp that, I think that there's room for success. Javier Mendez used to tell me, it's the world-class kickboxers that will take over the sport once they learn how to wrestle. Defensive wrestling, he's like, they can start to take over. I mean, there's guys that have done it. Look, Izzy's done it. John Jones always knew how to wrestle, but Izzy's done it. Alex Bajea's doing it. I mean, like these guys, Conor McGregor, I would say they're almost like world-class strikers, but they've learned how to stuff the takedowns. They learned how to keep their back up the fence. They learned how to strike going backwards. They learned how to do damage, and they learned when they did get taken down, how to make space and just get out and away. Don't ever take anything for granted. That's what I think. If Guido was to do it, he would have to do something like that.
He would. There's a lot, there's so many guys that are good in kickboxing that you look at and you go, he's a great fighter. He's tough as hell. Especially some of these Muay Thai guys when you're looking at them and things, because they already have some elements of takedowns as far as their sweeps and trips are actually really, well done, effective, great timing, backside kicks to the legs to take them out, beautifully done. But if you're going to go back in time and understand, a kickboxer going into MMA, Maurice Smith was the guy who just really, came out as a pure kickboxer and said, okay, how do I work in this sport and not die? And he did it by not really being great at takedown defense. His takedown defense was never that good. What was good is he learned how to use a butterfly guard and understand how to keep himself from being hurt. And he would wear people down by making them work to keep him down, getting them tired. And then when he got back to his feet, putting some damage on him and doing really well from that point. He never let them rest on top of him. Just like what you're saying, tried not to ever be in the full guard, always wanted to have his butterfly hooks in and would elevate and do all these things to make the person work. And he was the guy that really came out and did well. Crow Cop came out, in pride, and you're looking, he obviously had great power and stuff, but his takedown defense wasn't real good until he started working how to okay, how do I stop the takedowns? And once he really learned how to do the stop the takedowns, now he became a guy that was dangerous to everyone and stuff, because now it was like, oh shit, he's not easy to take down. He's using all those big legs and strength to stonewall you on your takedown attempts. And even in his, if you got a body lock on him, he was physically strong and kept you from doing things. Any kickboxer that wants to be good in MMA obviously doesn't have to do the submission part, but they absolutely have to figure out, am I going to utilize a wrestling defensive maneuver in takedowns to keep myself on my feet, or am I going to learn how to, if I do get taken down, create problems, since I'm really good at being cardiovascularly fit and better than my opponent. They're going to be able to take me down, but I'm going to make them work to the point where they're uncomfortable and I can start to take over. Look, that's the formula, and guys have made it work, and Daniel can make it work too. Yeah. Come on, baby.
Sorry, man.
There you go. There you
go.
You
guys got me? Got me?
Gotcha.
Damn, sorry guys. No,
All
someone everything's linked to my phone because I'm on my iPad for this one. So if someone called and ruined the whole flow of it all. All right, so Cody White. Josh, you always say Michael Johnson was a wrestler when he was young. He fought most of his amateur fights here in Springfield, Missouri, and the last thing he ever did was shoot a takedown, KO'd everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way he fights now, but he was a wrestler.
Yeah.
And the guy can wrestle.
Well, Michael Johnson never tried to out wrestle. I only saw him really try to out wrestle one person in a fight, and never used. He was kind of like the Chuck Liddell. That was his style, as far as, I want to sprawl and brawl. I think I'm better on the feet. I think I'm faster. I think I'm more elusive, and I can do damage on the feet. And I'm going to use my wrestling ability to keep you from being able to take me down. Okay, it's worked for him. He's been fantastic throughout his career. Michael Johnson is still, and he's getting up in age. The one thing that he hasn't really lost his speed. He's been really good with that. Taking a shot has changed a little bit, same as it did for Chuck. But man, his last performance, look at what happened.
Yeah.
The guy can still fight his ass off.
Look, he's extremely fast. Him and I were scheduled to fight. I was supposed to fight him instead of Bobby Green, and Bobby Green, he pulled out like 10 days before the fight.
Bobby's not slow either.
No, Bobby's not slow either. I don't know. And for the Michael Johnson fight, I felt like that was a fight that I had to be very cautious of. I didn't have the same respect for Bobby Green. No disrespect to Bobby. Bobby and I are friends now. I think he's a fantastic fighter. At the time, I didn't have the same respect for Bobby Green as I did for Michael Johnson at the time. That fight, though, to me with Michael Johnson, man, I was dialed in. I was focused. I was ready for that fight, and then the switcheroo happened. Really bothered me. I feel like that's a fight that I always want to get back. But now, I mean, like, now I see him, he's just too fast, man. I'm fucking old, slow. There's no way, man. It takes me forever just to walk to the mailbox. That guy's just too fast. I saw how fast he was last weekend. He would fucking annihilate me now. So he's just so fast. But look, to go back to Cody White's question, he may be a wrestler, but you understand that what he's done very well with his career is that he knows what puts fans in the seats and what brings him support, what gets the UFC behind him. If he just continued just to wrestle and take guys down and dominate from the top position, I mean, sure, he'd probably have some success, but it also would be a different style of fighter that we'd be watching. We all enjoy watching the Michael Johnson that we see today. We all enjoy it. Now, I do wish he would use his wrestling a tiny bit more to set up his hands, because his hands are so fast. I think he would be a lot more difficult fighter to deal with. And if he shot a couple takedowns, let the hands go on the brakes, and he mixed it up a little bit more. But I'm not going to knock him, because he's been doing this his whole career and he looks fantastic. He's an explosive fighter. He's tough to deal with for anybody. Top level guys have had problems with him. So, and let's not forget, I know he had that fight with Habib where he was dominated by Habib, but there was a couple of shots that got in there. Oh, yeah. The speed and the power.
Well, he stung him about 15 seconds into the fight.
Yeah.
Maybe 30.
And you got to be very cautious of him because in that first 5 minutes of the fight, that first round, he's dangerous.
Stop. Go. All you got to do with Michael is watch his fight against Justin Gaethje. When Justin Gaethje came into the UFC, man, what a fight between both of them. But again, it takes two to tango, and Michael Johnson put on one hell of a performance that night.
Yeah, the thing that yeah, you just said like all you got to do is just watch his fight with Justin Gaethje. Look, not everyone's blessed with the chin that Justin Gaethje has.
Yeah.
So for them to take the shots that Justin Gaethje did,
That was before Justin ever lost.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. And there was a lot of buzz around him because look, he was always exciting in World Series of Fighting. He was exciting over there, and people were talking about how good he was, and he was the man over there. They lost a little bit of steam on him when his very last fight there was against Buscape. I can't remember, Luis Formigo, I think is his name.
Yeah.
He lost a little bit of steam coming in the UFC, but then after that first fight in the UFC, the sky was the limit. People couldn't stop talking about him. He put it on the line. Great fight. He got rocked several times in that Michael Johnson fight.
Oh yeah.
He dug deep, fought through it.
Told me he was never hurt.
Go back and watch that tape, buddy. Weary Traveler. How do you think Johnny Eblin would do in the UFC? He seems to be that guy outside the UFC at middleweight.
You're right. He is that guy outside of the UFC right now. Everyone knows because Johnny tends to bounce around and train in a lot of places. Even is trained at the UFC's PI and stuff like that. And everybody that trains with him all of a sudden goes, oh, because Johnny brings a whole lot of different aspects to the fight game. He's not great anywhere. He's not a great wrestler. He's a good wrestler. He's not a great wrestler. He's not a great striker. He's a good striker. He's got good cardio. He can absolutely bring a pace and continue to push that pace as long as he's the one in control of things and gets his moments. And you'll see his moments when he takes a breath, but he's just good everywhere. And the other part that's really good about him is he can change things up in a fight. He's got a very good fight IQ. He's had guys that have given him little moments of problems and he switched it up and created that switch to where now he's taken over in the fight. You can sit there and take a look at everybody that's in the UFC in the 185-pound division. And you're Johnny has gone and he trains with Sean Strickland and people like that. But there's guys that would possibly, give him problems that are in the top 15 in the UFC, but there's guys in the top 15 in the UFC he's going to fucking annihilate too. Mm-hmm. That's just the way it is. And that's when you get into that level of competition, there's going to be moments that, it's all about the matchup and the night. And there's guys in there that, I think, I want to say Roman Dolidze is somewhere around 11, 10, 9, somewhere in there as far as ranking in the 185s. And he's a good fighter. And the style that he has, I think that Johnny Eblin would absolutely walk through him. I'm just being honest. Now, I know what's happened in training because I know where they train and stuff. And Dolidze is good. It's just that where he's good and what he does things well in, Johnny Eblin tends to do him a little bit better. And so, but there's guys in there that I think are going to give him some problems too. I think Imavov as a guy. Yeah. That's a guy that he could give him problems. He's got length. He's got good speed. He's got good stand-up. He's got good takedown defense. He's a guy that you look and you go, yeah, he could be a problem. But he would fit in there beautifully. Whether he gets that chance or not, I don't know. I don't know who the PFL is going to keep and who they're going to release, but they got to, at least if they're going to keep him, they've got to give him a weight division to compete in because he's a 185er and they don't have that.
Yeah, the PFL is just wasting his fucking time. That's just me personally. That's my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for anybody else on this podcast, just me. No. Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya, I think those two guys are tough fights for him, but I think he's able to beat them.
I think Izzy's actually not a bad fight for him, just style-wise.
Yep. Sean gives him problems because they've trained together. They know each other pretty well. Yes, and he knows how good Sean is. Even though he can take him down, he can take Sean down. He's hard to hold down. Yeah. Sean's just like that weird guy. He's like just kind of flows his way back up to his feet and finds a way to get back up to him. I'm looking at Chimaev. I think it's going to be a problem for anybody in that weight class. Robert Whittaker. Yep. I think Robert Whittaker poses problems only because Bobby Knuckles is just tough all the way around. Yeah. Tough fight for him. Kai Bahalo. I haven't seen enough of Kai Bahalo against top-level competition to see how Johnny would do, but I think it'd be a fun fight. Marvin Vettori, I think he beats. Let me see who else. Cannonier poses problems physically strong. You
Not
say
anymore.
no,
Not
only
anymore.
because I say no, only because of the age. But I think Cannonier he's just physically strong, can
Yeah,
stop
he is.
takedowns.
No
He's
doubt
got
about it.
power in the hands. I think Cannonier is a tough fight for almost anybody. The fight that I want to see the most, though, is the Brennan Allen and Johnny Eblin fight.
That'd be a
That to
great
me
fight.
would be a fucking fantastic fight.
Be a great
Those
fight.
two guys getting after each other, that to me would probably be one of the best fights you could probably put together. So that fight, I mean, outside of that, I get into like the Paulo Costas, I get into the, like you said, the Lidze, Jack Hermanson, those guys. You know, him and Fluffy would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun because they both have great cardio. They, both have a little bit of power in their hands, but they're not like one crunch knockout power. Both are crafty on the ground. It'd be a fun fight and conditioning
Fluffy
wise.
is the better submission grappler, and
Yes,
Johnny is by far the better wrestler. And so it would be, could Fluffy even get him down? He's
but
gonna
it'd
have a
still
hard
be a
time.
fun fight.
Oh
But on
yeah,
the
not saying
feet
it wouldn't.
though,
On the feet, it'd be good.
John, I think it'd be a fun fight. I'd give maybe Fluffy a little bit of the edge on the feet.
I don't think so.
No, I mean, like it really
It's
just
okay.
comes to okay. I get
It's
it.
okay. Yeah.
It's okay. But I'm right though, so I get it. All right. But it would be a fun fight. It would be a fun fight. All right. Shiz Akhmedov. Appreciate the love, Josh. Last time, memory refreshing MVP versus Douglas Lima, first fight. If MVP didn't get leg kick, could he have won the decision? MVP was ahead on the scorecards, if I'm not mistaken. It was, look, John, you and I were both there at that fight. We were both working that fight.
Yeah.
I don't live in the world of what ifs.
If is a very, it's a 2-letter word that can be stretched out so much that anything can be possible if he lost.
Yeah.
He was doing well in the fight. MVP was doing well. He had actually just hurt Douglas Lima, and Douglas Lima landed a nice leg kick, and MVP got up in a fashion, or started to get up in a fashion that was stupid. It wasn't him being smart at that moment. He's a smart fighter. And I love MVP in the way he fights, but he just thought I'll just pop up, and Douglas Lima landed a clean shot as he's getting up. No one's punch proof. That is just what happens, and it happened. That's learn from the fight. I think he did, and that's, you don't take anything away from Douglas Lima. He was able to land that shot.
Yeah, I got nothing but respect, man. I love your questions. I love how you like to give me a hard time and bust my balls about the Chimaev stuff. Bottom line is, I can't live in the world of ifs. I don't know what would have happened. MVP, like the leg kicks is what Douglas Lima is known for. The movement of the way the MVP bounces in and bounces out. It was a matter of time before Lima is able to catch that calf kick and either drop him or just start doing work on the calf kick, so then the movement starts to slow down. That fight was also a 5-round fight, and so you don't know what could have happened. I think that knockout happened in the beginning or towards the middle of the second round or third round.
That was the third round.
Third round, okay.
I could be wrong.
So yeah, but regardless, I mean, yeah, maybe MVP was up, but look, we all know just because you won the first 2 rounds doesn't mean you're gonna win rounds 3, 4, and 5. I go back to my Benson Henderson fight. I dominated the first 2 rounds. Apparently, I lost the last 3. So who knows? But it just comes down to, like, you got to get the job done for the full 5 rounds. That's the benefit of fighting 5 rounds. And both those guys are true professionals, and it was definitely a very good fight. It was gonna be a highly contested fight.
Yeah.
So, but hey, you know what, John? You brought up the ifs. You said "if" such a big word, and our boy Stephen A. Smith brought up this word "if." If my right hand lands on Joe Rogan, he's going down. Get the fuck out of here! Please tell me this is fake. Please tell me this
I'm gonna tell you.
This dick punching, baby punching. It's like dick punch hit the mama, or hit the baby, hit the mama. Like this guy with his uppercut, right hook, or up. I don't know what the hell he was doing on his mitt work that he saw a long time ago. Get the out of here! I was on Joe Rogan's show the weekend, the Tuesday after or the Wednesday after he had did the whole Donald Cerrone talk and this and that, and we were talking about it. I was like, and then it says, Stephen A. Smith apparently is being quoted. Let me be clear. If my right hand connects with the legend Joe Rogan, all due respect, he's getting knocked out, people.
Okay, hold on. I saw this and I responded to it because it was Jocko Willing that actually put, and I thought it was the greatest response ever. He goes, if. That's all he put, if, right? And it's like, okay. And then so I was right away, I was like, I'm so tired of people that cannot fight saying shit like this, like, they're all of a sudden they're just going to become something, superhuman, and I'm so tough. And you watch people that, are hitting mitts, and you watch them in a real fight, they get hit one time and they're turning around like they're like a little kid on a schoolyard, clicking their heels together, wanting to go home. I want to say this first off. If someone just put this in and you didn't say this, I apologize to you, man, because it's a stupid statement. And the fact that if it is not you and I bought into it, shame on me. But if it is a true statement by you, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Have you lost your fucking mind? You hit like a fucking weak ass bitch. My God, you couldn't hit with enough power to knock out anybody. Okay, I got a
John,
2-year-old grandson.
It's Christmas time, man.
Cry.
Let's keep it positive. It's Christmas time.
No. I have a 2-year-old grandson that would cry, but he wouldn't be out. Jesus Christ. And that's that first shot you're doing down near the ground. But I don't get, how, Josh, why do you say this? Why?
No idea.
What would be the purpose?
I have no idea. All I know is that it was, I keep going back to watching him hit the mitts. And it was,
dude, that is just horrible. And it's
so
first off,
bad.
I'm not going to say it's only horrible on him.
It was so
whoever
bad,
his
John.
guy is, trainer, whatever he is, that's holding those sons of bitches, dude, you don't know what the fuck you're doing either.
And allowing him to continue to hit that way.
Oh, I know. It's just,
I couldn't believe it.
It's tragic.
Couldn't believe.
But I
regardless,
again, like I said, Jocko Willing, the greatest response ever, with a question mark. If
do you think he said it? I hope not. I hope he didn't.
I hope not. I bought into it, so I'm thinking that he did in the beginning, and then someone said, John, he didn't say that. I'm like,
oh, well,
maybe he didn't, and I'm just being a dumbass and fucking saying stuff about him when he didn't do anything wrong. But sometimes Stephen A. Smith says stuff that I go, hey, all right, that's justified. You can say that and everything. And then there's been times, it was the whole Donald Cerrone thing. It was like, man, don't ever be sitting there saying stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What he was saying about Donald, when you haven't been in that same situation. No, don't do that. And I thought it was wrong. And so that one I know was wrong because I heard it. This one, maybe someone put it out there under his stuff and he didn't say it.
Got it.
I'm hoping.
I'm gonna get into Master of the Universe Classic. We put out a thumbnail out for people to go ahead and submit some questions. I wanted to answer one or two of these. These are kind of fun. These just have some fun before Christmas. It says some of the fun questions for you guys just before the year wraps. Top 3 Christmas movies, John. What's your top 3 Christmas movies?
Oh my God, top 3 Christmas movies. Die Hard.
Number 1.
Boom. There you go. All right. Look at that.
Number 1.
We've never talked about this.
Number 1.
Die Hard is a great Christmas movie because there's people dying in it that fucking needed to die. That's just the way I look at it. I got to say Home Alone. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Funny as shit. And if I'm going to go a third, let's go with Jingle All the Way.
Who Jingle All the Way?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
But
look, I don't know.
There
I can't
could
remember.
be one I'm forgetting right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The Christmas Story, right? The original one.
Okay.
Right. I mean, but to me, it was a good movie. But I don't go talking about it and bragging about it. You should try out that kind of thing with a BB gun.
Oh, the BB gun.
Yeah. But then I you know what movie I really like? I liked Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck. John Candy.
And it really was it a Christmas movie?
Not really.
I just remember there was snow in it. There was a lot of snow in it. He was driving that big long Buick or whatever it was.
Well, if you want to talk about planes, trains, and automobiles,
yes,
with him and Steve Martin was absolutely hysterical.
Yeah,
that was so funny, and just some of the things he's trying to get home and all that stuff. It was great.
So that goes into my next question. So what's your favorite John Candy movies? Give me 1 or 2.
Oh, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Absolutely one of my favorite John Candy movies. And if I was going to say another one, Uncle Buck was actually pretty fucking good. I know I'm missing something in there that was a good one. I don't know. I'll go with those 2.
What was the very first music album you ever bought? I mean, I know it's 62 years ago. Jeez, I'm like, I mean, they were playing that shit on. It was on vinyl.
It's so fun.
Did they have vinyls back then, or did you
Yeah.
guys still on scroll?
No,
Was it just like on a scroll? They just chucked it in.
Watch it, bitch. No, it used to be a little thing with bumps. You'd spin it around and it would hit the little things.
It was a stone scroll, right? You just had to like chiseled in the lyrics, and you had to read it.
Man, I'm being honest. I think the first album I ever actually paid for, bought something like that, probably was either Kansas or Foreigner. Kansas, Dust in the Wind. I think that was the first one I ever bought. I used to love the very first time I ever even noticed a song. I can tell you the two. There was two different ones. A Horse with No Name by America. Yeah, I don't know if you ever remember that one. Yeah, it talks about going through the desert with a horse with no name and stuff. It's fucking still a great song. And then Jim Croce had two. He had Big Bad Leroy Brown.
Yes,
I love that goddamn song. And then there was, I can't even remember what it was, if it was called it, but it was, you don't mess with Jim.
Yeah.
And then he switched it to You Don't Mess with Slim, and it was, you don't pull on
Superman's cape. You don't piss into the wind.
Yeah. You don't tug the mask of the old Lone Ranger.
Big Bad Leroy Brown.
No, that was a different song. There's two different ones there.
Okay. Yeah. And then
because
I think it's.
I love those two fucking songs, and those made me start to like music. Those three together, all of a sudden, I was like getting into music. I was young, but
that was my dad's era.
Yep.
My dad played that shit on repeat in the house. Yeah. It was in the house.
Yeah. Well, it was funny. My dad. You know what's funny about my dad? My dad hated fucking rock and roll. He fucking it's country music and everything, but he loved Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah.
Which is one of our guys on Bellator that was one of the cameramen. His dad was one of the guitar players on Creedence. And my dad played that damn fucking every song they had to no end. At the time, CCR was the thing for me.
Yeah. So he must have loved Forrest Gump then, the movie.
My dad?
Yeah, shit was. They played every damn song off that album.
Oh, damn true.
Oh, geez. All right. It says name one UFC fighter you think could be a surprise champion in 2025.
Oh, surprise champion. Man. Oh, that's a tough one, because when you say surprise, it's like, there's ones that I think will be, but I don't know if it's a surprise. Evloev.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was thinking the same thing.
Okay.
I think his style is just like, we expect him to be at the top. I'm not sure if he can get there, but it would be a surprise to me. But then again, that the champ's vacating basically.
Exactly.
He's walking up. I mean, like, it wouldn't surprise me if he did end up winning, the title, because, Ilia Topuria is going up.
Yep.
I will say this. It would be a surprise to me if Ilia Topuria ends up being the 155-pound champ.
Yeah, right now
that would be a surprise to me.
Even if, and I'm going to say it right now. I think Sarukian is phenomenal. I think he is an underdog to Makhachev. But even if Sarukian does get past Islam, I don't think that Ilia Topuria beats him.
Interesting. You know what's funny is I was reading some of the stuff that Islam's been doing lately, and he's like, look, he spent all the time down there with Charles Oliveira. Never tried to pass, he just tried to do damage.
Yeah.
He's like, he's got to be more cautious and careful of the submissions from Islam. We were just talking about this the other night. Islam's grappling is fucking world class. I can't tell you guys enough how good his grappling is. Armand's going to have to be very concerned about the submission.
I think this is something people don't understand when it comes to Islam. Islam is always, if you want to talk about the guy that takes away people's black belts, it's Islam. Okay, because he talks some shit about, he'll roll with someone who is a known good black belt, in jiu-jitsu, and he does very well with him. He goes, brother, who gave you your black belt?
Yeah. So, I know.
He's taken away a lot of them, so yeah, he's good.
He basically wants to know, like who's this guy? Who's this guy? Like I was talking about George said, who's this guy, brother? Who's this guy? Who are these guys who gave you your black belt? Who says you're a black belt? Because let's be honest, if you're a top level world class MMA guy, you're probably not the best jiu-jitsu guy.
No,
The
you're not.
best, yeah, because you have to dedicate so much more
Yeah.
time. Now you can be really good at MMA jiu-jitsu,
Sure.
which makes you world class.
Yeah.
But to see
World
guys
class
like
in the MMA world.
yes,
Yeah.
in the MMA world, yes. Being the same thing on the mat in jiu-jitsu, different worlds. Completely different
Totally.
worlds. Now you may have really good goes. Like I had some really great goes with guys like Lucas Leite, Lapella, Leo Vieira. I had really good goes with them.
Yeah.
But if we were to lay it all out and be like, hey, this guy and this guy, me and you, these guys would mop the fucking floor with me. It's just like if we had to put a gi on or even without a gi, like an ogi, sure, I felt very confident in ogi. But when you went with them, straight jiu-jitsu, never had to worry about striking, different level.
Yeah.
Different level. These guys are fantastic. All right, we're gonna go Zeke 662. Paul versus Usman in a huge fight. Where is the promo for this? This fight should be taking place in Vegas at 10 p.m., not noon in the Middle East. I get they're paying for it. Why doesn't PFL promote more?
Money. It costs money. This is what people don't understand. They sit there all the time and they complain about the UFC and fighter pay and stuff. And I'm one of them. I always want to see the fighters make more money. And when we talk about that, we're saying, okay, right now, they're making somewhere between 15 and 17% is the fighter payroll for all the fights throughout the year. That's a percentage of what the UFC makes. But, people don't look into also the marketing dollars that the UFC puts out there on these fights. It's huge how much money they put out there. But that's how you know about the fights. That's how I know about the fights, just beyond what comes out on the websites. You start seeing these things and you're seeing all of these, the UFC has episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 of the buildup of these. All of those things cost a lot of money. We're talking, the production, sending camera crews and, directors for it at the time and everything that they're doing. And it's not just one fight. They're doing it week after week after week. It's an incredible amount of money that they're putting out there. And, God bless them. They do a phenomenal job with it. But those are the things that, when you have the fan support and the pay-per-view that the UFC is getting and the contracts that they're getting with ESPN and all of the different sponsors and stuff, that's how they pay for this stuff. And they can do it. When you're the PFL and you're coming up, look, you don't have the deep pockets. And what you're trying to do is get investors to go with you. And then you're trying to find a sponsor. But your sponsor is not paying anything compared to what they're going to pay the UFC for the same type of thing. One's going to be able to charge, $10 and one's going to be able to charge $1,000. Mm-hmm. And that's just the way it is. And so the PFL, when it comes to Bellator, because that's where this fight is actually taking place, I think the PFL, got, they absorbed Bellator. They got more than they were expecting as far as the amount of fighters and things that they weren't, in my opinion, structured in the right, way as far as the infrastructure to handle this amount of new fighters and to do 2 promotions. It's like so hard. Even the UFC, when they first started with the WEC, when they took over the WEC and they had, we're going to keep the UFC is 155 pounds and above, and the WEC, it started off, they had it to light heavyweight. They didn't have heavyweight. They had it to light heavyweight. And we're going to start cutting some of those down to where we get it's 145 and down. They struggled in some areas and they struggled with the 2 promotions. Then they kind of got it, and because they're so big and so good with what they do, they were able to function within it, but still running 2, promotions. They tried it with Strikeforce. It did, that didn't work because they had to play it out based upon contracts and things like that. It's not easy to do 2 promotions. And if you're going to be the PFL, am I going to put my money into Bellator, which might not be around that long, even though it's a great fight between Paul Hughes and Usman Nurmagomedov, or am I going to put my money into a PFL product? I think they're going to put it into a PFL product. So that's why you're not hearing about it. And it's a great fight. You're right.
Look, when you're taking this amount of money from whoever, you're going to do as you're told. And that means you're gonna have that event where I want you to have, and you're gonna have that fighter where I want you to fight him. That's what happens. The UFC is not, they're not subject to being told what to do, because they, even though the Middle East owns 10%, I believe, of the UFC still, that was a deal that they had done with the Fertitas. I believe they still do, John.
I don't think so.
I think they do.
When Flat, because that was Flash Entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and when the entire sale went down, that was part of the whole thing, is they didn't get to keep that 10%.
See, I thought they
got
did. That's
paid
why
out.
I thought they did, because that's how they were able to do the COVID island thing. Was it they were involved with that. They still own part of the company. That's why they were able to use Yaz Island or whatever it was, Fight Island, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I'll have to do more research into that, but
I'll
I
have
do
to look
believe
into
that
it.
they still own 10%. But look, just to go back to Zeke's question, Zeke 662, really comes down to just you're gonna have to go wherever the money is, and if you're taking this amount of money from the Middle East, then they want that level of fights. They're subject to doing what they want. Outside of that, in terms of promotion, it really just comes down to, like John said, if the money's coming in and I can go ahead and build these guys up and I can put out the PR on it, I can do all those things, then I'm going to do it. But you also got to pick and choose who you're going to do it, because you don't have endless money to spend. You've got to spend it on the right people that you feel are going to be around for a long period of time. It's harder for these smaller promotions. And what I mean by smaller, they're doing big time things, but they're smaller in terms of their fan base. So how do you get the fan base to continue to take interest? Well, you promote the guys that you feel will bring in the most eyeballs. Usman is one of them. AJ McKee, Aaron Pico, Patchy Mix. I mean, these are world-class guys that could fight any organization. Johnny Eblin, they could fight any organization. But now you got to pick out the ones that you feel are the most marketable. How can I get people to attach themselves to them? You've got to kind of take that WWE feeling, like what attracts the most eyeballs and how do I put the money into it? John, you look like you have something to say.
I looked it up because I didn't know, and it says Flash Entertainment sold its 10% stake in the Ultimate Fighting Championship in 2018.
Okay, interesting. All right, so
but it was that relationship that you're talking about that ended up making it to where Dana had a place to go.
Yeah,
and it all worked out, and that's what relationships are about in business.
Zach Baker, you know what? Before we move on, Zach Baker said one thing. Said The Great Outdoors by John Candy. That was another great movie. That was another one. He wanted to add that in. I want to make sure we got to that. But to go back to the PFL situation, though, is our producer's going to pull something up. Go ahead and show us what you got there on the PFL stuff with Patricio Pitbull, this type of stuff. In terms of, John, there was a back and forth with Patricio and Don Davis. And I want to clarify one thing. Don Davis basically said, like, look, there was no fight scheduled in 2024 by Bellator. So when we picked up all the fighters, we had no choice but to try to carry them out for the next year, get them busy. We did the best we could. Okay. That being said, I know for a fact that they were telling them not to schedule events going into 2024 because they didn't want to be committed to having those events at those locations and those arenas and being committed to spending that kind of money on those fighters at those venues. I know that for a fact because we had canceled an event that they didn't want to be done. And then also to that last event, because it was scheduled, they didn't want to pay for any of it. They're like, look, the sale's going to go through. Nope, we'll wait till after this. We'll wait till after that event was scheduled. So we're not paying for that event. That's what I know that for a fact. So the fact that he's saying, Don Davis is saying, hey, nothing was scheduled into 2025. There's a reason nothing was scheduled into 2025 because then you guys would have drugged this thing out even longer. It already took a full year for you guys to purchase it. And I think that's the frustration from some of these fighters, Patricio Pitbull. Why am I not scheduled for more than 2 or 3 fights? And I'm hearing on the backside that some of these fighters are being asked to take pay cuts. And if they're not being asked to take pay cuts, and if they're not going to take the pay cut, then they're just going to sit. None of these fighters' contracts are guaranteed. None of them. I want to say there's only like 2, maybe 3 of them. Their contracts are guaranteed. The rest are not. The rest are not guaranteed their fights in their 18 months or 2 months or 2 years of their contract.
But hold on. When you're sitting there saying you're saying this about fights, it's got to be in the contract where the fighter is for however long the contract is, they say 6 fights in a 4-year span, 6 fights in a 2-year
Yes.
span. You know, so it's got to be
Yes.
in Patricio's contract as far as how many fights he gets, you know, within that time. I in looking at it, I look at Patricio as just who he is and what he's done in the sport and what he did for Bellator. This is a guy who's at the end of his career, and he needs to fight as much as possible, you know, so he can finish off his career. And
Back
to sit on the bench is not the way for him to sit out his career.
Okay, so back to that. I went through
finish
this.
that.
I had this conversation with several managers that manage fighters that are in PFL and Bellator.
Yeah.
And they've said their fights are not, they're not guaranteed in their contracts. So it says, 6 fights over a 2-year period or whatever it is. They don't have to offer them those fights. And after those 2 years, they can just release them, which is a dick move to do. If you're not going to fight them, let them go, which is a dick move to do. But what they're doing is they're asking some of the fighters to take a pay cut. And if they don't, then they're just going to sit them. That's dick. That's
who said they're just going to sit them?
that. I mean, that's what I'm getting from these. That's what they're hoping.
Is that the feeling that the manager?
That is the feeling. That's the feeling from the managers.
You know, is that
that's a dick move.
It's a dick move if it happens. Absolutely. Fighting is something, you know, your career is short, you know, and like I say it all the time, as far as the amount, usually you're in peak form as a fighter somewhere in the area of 2 to 4 years. That's your peak form. You know, if you have a 10-year career, that's because you're learning in the beginning and getting into that peak form, and then you're going to have that drop off. There are people that, you know, do 20 years. It's amazing, but they're, you know, able to do it. But to, you know, look at the UFC at times held people out, you know, let's just be honest. It's something that promotions do when they cannot, you know, come to terms with that fighter. It's just never the right thing, in my opinion, to do.
Okay, so we can't come to terms with them on a new contract. Some of these guys already have a contract and they have 4 or 5 fights, and you're like, no, we want you to renegotiate now because we can't afford to pay you that. No, just release me. No, we're just going to let you sit then for 18 months. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's not fair, because you have a contract, you sign a contract. If the company picks up that contract and they're saying they agree to pay that contract, now if they're coming at you and saying, look, we need you to take a pay cut, and you decide no, you know, just release me, then they should be releasing you because they don't want to pay you what's on that contract.
Yeah. I was always under the impression that you had to offer me the 3 fights for the year or whatever my contract said. And if you didn't, at the end of my contract, offer me all my fights in that duration, that you had to pay me out. That's what I was under my contracts were back in the day.
That's under everyone's got a different, exactly.
Yeah.
That
was under
contract.
Zupa, but that's how my Strikeforce contract was also.
Okay.
But now the contracts, from what I understand, are not that way. The contracts are like, hey, we say, hey, we're going to offer you 6 fights in 2 years.
Yeah.
But if we don't get to it, then we don't get to it. Now, most of the time, obviously, like Bellator, they were making an effort to, like, hey, we're going to offer you guys these fights. We're going to extend you if we can, or if you're injured, that extends your contract 4 months, 6 months, however long. That's common. That's common in this game. But I wasn't aware of the fact until just recently that these guys' contracts are not guaranteed. So if they don't take the pay cut, then the PFL or other organizations, that was a lot of knock. That's what the knock was with One.
One's is even shadier than that.
Yeah. But the reason why they're shadier than that is because they actually, what they do is they pay you a little bit of a stipend. I'll pay you $1,500 a month.
But they don't
sometimes
pay every fighter. Sometimes.
Not everyone, not every fighter. Yes. So that's why. Anyways, all right. We're a traveler. Josh, when are we going to see you in BKFC? Look, there's really only like 1 or 2 fights I'd really ever be interested in doing the BKFC, and I would need at least 6 months to get into it, get my body back into shape, get my mindset, that kind of thing, and get ready for it. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing the Gilbert Melendez fight. I wouldn't mind doing the Nate Diaz fight. Both those fights. Can you think of someone else? Look, I got to be honest. Cowboy Cerrone said he's coming back. Cowboy Cerrone said he's going to come back. I'm still interested in that fight. That's the fight that I always wanted. I'd still be interested in that fight. Anthony Pettis just signed with GFL.
PFL.
If that happens, like, that's a fight that I was offered to me. I was supposed to fight him for the UFC title. Never came to fruition. He pulled out with an injury. I would have loved to have had that fight. That's what that fight,
So that's
him
4.
pulling out of that. Yeah, and that's 4. I guess you can, but look, let's be honest. All 4 of those guys, I'm like in the win to them. They're like, yeah, you know what? Like, he's not as active. He doesn't. So it is what it is. But those are the fights that if I was to come back, those are the fights that I would come back for. Shiz Akhmedov, Conor McGregor made his debut at 145 and was knocking out opponents with ease and one shot. In 155, he did good until he moved to 170 and lost. Was the featherweight division perfect for Conor?
No. And the reason I say it was at one time when he was super young, he was able to make that weight. But if you looked at Conor, just take a look at his weigh-in photos when he was at 145 in the UFC, and you'll see it gets worse and worse and worse as far as he really starts looking like he's in a prison camp near the end. I mean, he is so drawn. He looks unhealthy, and he wasn't able to maintain staying at 145. So I don't even think it was a true conscious decision. Oh, I want to go up to, he had to. He was in a position where just the weight cut itself was so detrimental to his career at 145 that it was easy. He had to go. His big thing is he wanted to do the fight against Aldo. He got that fight first year. He wins the interim title against Chad Mendes. And then because Aldo had to pull out, and then he comes back and he beats Aldo for the undisputed title. And that was it. It's not much different than Ilia Topuria right now, in the fact that, look, he's leaving not because, there's no fights for him. There are fights for him at 145. He's having a hard time making the weight, and it's becoming a detriment to his career in how many times he puts his body through that weight cut and how detrimental that is to his long-term health. I think he's decided, I need to move up in weight. I'm 100% behind him. I think it's a smart move by him. He can definitely fight, in the lightweight division and be successful. And I thought Conor was the same thing.
Yeah, I'm looking at UFC 194, the poster at the weigh-ins, and Conor looks sunken in. He doesn't even look the same. He looks emaciated. And then you see UFC 196, where he fights at 155. He looks fuller. He looks good. His face looks good. Everything about him looks good. I believe that 155 should have been his weight class. He's tall. He's long. He's lanky. The movement, all of those things. He had a great fight against Eddie Alvarez. He should have stayed there. He should have continued his success in that weight class. Going up to 170 was just dumb. Just dumb. That was more of like, I can do it all. He just lost the humbleness.
It was partly that, but it was also, you got to figure, he was scheduled to fight and his opponent fell out, and they brought in Nate Diaz, and Nate was in a position where it was only 10 days away from signing the contract to when he was going to be stepping in the cage, and he wasn't able to make 155. He was smart enough to say, look, I'm not going to be able to make that weight. And so they decided, okay, we'll make it at 170. 170 was probably a little big at the time for Conor, but he accepted it. And that was, when he lost and stuff. But, I understand why he ended up going to 170, but 155, as you said, I think was definitely his weight class.
Yeah. Zeke 662. I'm just going to say, hey, I like the advice, and I'm also going to preface all the stuff that we said in regards to Patricio, the PFL, the fighter stuff. It's all, to me, allegedly. Allegedly, this stuff is all happening, okay? I just want to make sure that my ass is clear. We are all comfortable. Allegedly, this is what is going on. All right? Producer, can you pull up what else we got there? We'll do one more thing, and then we're going to call this wrap. If you guys have any super chats, go ahead and throw it in there before we wrap this up. And, hey, I want to make sure that you guys all know and understand we are available at BetUS with YouTube 150 promo code, and your next 2 deposits after that will be a 125% bonus on the next 2 deposits. So your first deposit will be 150% bonus at YouTube 150 at BetUS. Also, join us over at OnlyFans. I want to thank you guys so much for continuing to support us. And last but not least, LMNT. Use the link down below in our profile. Use the link down below for LMNT. Use that to purchase anything you guys want for the hydration product, the best hydration product in the business. If you purchase it, they will send you a bonus package with every purchase. Go ahead. Let's see what else we got. Mike Perry. This is the last one we'll talk about. Mike Perry calls for BKFC showdown with former UFC champion Robbie Lawler. What's your thoughts, John?
I don't want to see it. I'm being honest. I would love to see it, and I don't want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
How's that? Does that make sense? No.
It's perfect sense.
Robbie Lawler is a stud. And look, Robbie Lawler has had multiple careers. He really has. When you take a look at him and how he came back from being a 185-pound fighter for the most part in Strikeforce and coming back to the UFC and getting the 170-pound title. He had a great run there. He had some of the best goddamn fights ever. If you go back and watch his fight against Roy McDonald or his fight against Carlos Condit, super exciting. His ones against Johnny Hendricks were fantastic. He just had that run that was great. Robbie's 42 years of age now. Mike Perry is 33, 34. So you look and you go, first off, Robbie hasn't been training. He's been training other people. And I have nothing but absolute, adoration for what Mike Perry has done in BKFC. We talk about it all the time. I think it's his spot. I think he's the superstar there. I think he absolutely is great for the company. But you're also looking at Robbie's had close to 50 fights. Let's say 45 to 50, where Perry is somewhere in the 25 maybe. And that's the difference in the age, obviously, too. Perry is just, the younger fighter. And right now, Robbie Lawler is in a good spot. Why go back? You ended your career with a 38-second performance against Nico Price that was fantastic. You showed everyone what you could still do. You walked out basically in a position where you could be proud of what you accomplished throughout your career. You ended it on the right note. There was nothing there. There's no reason to go back. None.
Yeah.
Robbie has been very smart with his money. Robbie is as frugal with his money as he is with his words. Okay, so if you know Robbie doesn't say a whole lot.
No.
So he doesn't need it. And although I would love to kind of see it because it would be explosive, I don't think it's a good thing, and I don't want to see Robbie do it.
I do know that there was some buzz going around about the fight. There was some talk. I know that there's a lot of money potentially being thrown at this fight. There's a lot of interest in it. There's a lot of money being thrown at it. So if that's to happen, I'm with you on this. I want to see it, but I kind of don't want to see it. I know Robbie is financially okay. So he's been great with his money, like you said. So the one last thing we're going to say, when did Josh and John meet for the first time? UFC, very first UFC fight.
I was going to say it had to be your first fight against Gerald Streebrandt. That would be the time I came in his locker room, started talking to him. I'd been, and I'm being honest, I had not seen Josh fight up to that point, but I had a lot of people telling me, and they're not all real smart. They said, this guy's fucking good. I did know Gerald Streebrandt. I knew exactly what he was good with and everything. And I had some people telling me it ain't going to be fucking close. And they were right. It wasn't.
They were right.
Yeah.
I had to make sure we approved everyone right.
Yeah.
Hey, before we guys go to WayneMerch.com, pick up some of our apparel. Hey, they be great gifts, great stuff for stocking stuffers. I know it's last minute, and I know tomorrow is Christmas Eve, so maybe the shipping won't get out until afterwards. But hey, they make for good New Year's Eve's pictures and stuff like that too, if you guys want. So make sure you guys go to WayneMerch.com. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. Look, we did this for you guys. I want to also touch base on this for our fans real quick. We enjoy doing this for you guys. We enjoy being here. Like, it's literally the day before Christmas Eve, and we want to make sure we got this out to you because I know tomorrow night it's going to get hectic. Most of you are traveling. Most of you are with family. Most of you don't want to be logged on online on Christmas Eve checking to see what we're doing. So we thought we would drop it for you guys today. And hopefully you guys can watch it when you guys have time in the post. But we want to thank you guys so much for continuing to support us, and do us a favor. If you want to continue to support us, support our sponsors. So we have Element. Use the link down below. Follow us over at OnlyFans. I want to thank you guys, and BetUS at YouTube. 150 is the promo code. Thank you guys. Keep us going, man. That's what we're trying to do. We're enjoying this. We want to wish you guys all a very, very Merry Christmas. Spend time with your loved ones. Enjoy these moments. They are very precious. And have a happy New Year. Give your family some loves and hugs and let them know how much you care about them, because you never know. But
That is
John,
true.
take us away, buddy.
Hey, for everyone out there, the one thing that is the most precious thing you could ever have, it's time and how you spend it. So spend it with your family, spend it in special moments. Take care of each other, be kind, and we will see you.